Youngstown State University Penguins. Doug Phillips. Coach Phillips, how are you today, sir?
Well, I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Fantastic, fantastic. You know, in a world in which you're not able to get the players together to practice, I imagine the computer is being used an awful lot to get the players together.
Yes, but we've adjusted. I think in life you make you adjust. You have a plan, but I held a team meeting Friday on Zoom, and you got to act like they're right in front of you, like you're in the classroom talking to them. And we've been able to have individual position meetings, unit meetings, inside run, 7-on-7. It's just a different delivery method, but we hope that transfers to the field when we get to the field.
Anthony and I were talking about the field. You come into a situation where the cupboard was far from bare. Now, obviously, we would have loved to have had Justice Reed back for the senior year, but he goes to Virginia Tech. But my goodness, Coach, there is an awful lot of talent on this football team.
There is. The only concerning part I have, if we're an O-line, D-line driven team, that O-line took a big hit. So we got to do a great job. I think we got one Dan Becker coming back. So, we got to replace 4 guys up front, and that's where football games are won, and it's going to be our job to get those guys developed as quickly as we can.
As a first-year head coach, what have been kind of the difficulties or obstacles in trying to establish your philosophy and your coaching style with this team when you've only had to do everything web-based and not face-to-face interaction?
Well, I think we had a great first month and a half before all this went down, that we spent a lot of time with our kids, with their position coaches, because, again, kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So I think that first 2 months that we're able to do that, and then going into even this quarantine and the work and effort that we put in, I tried to every day. I think there was a month, 2 months that I texted them every weekday, talking about our philosophy, talking about the things we talked about before we left campus, just to reinforce it so when they get back on campus, they truly know what our core principles are.
Coach Phillips, obviously the edit was put down that college football and college basketball players are going to be allowed back on campus very, very shortly. Do you have a timetable in terms of when practice is going to restart for the kids?
Well, we're constantly communicating, with the NCAA and even with our league, in the Missouri Valley, just to see when they are. But the first thing that's a positive note is June 1st, our staff is allowed back in the office, and we're going to do it split, just so we limit how many are in a confined space. So I'm bringing offense back on Monday, defense on Tuesday, and then on Friday, we can do a whole staff meeting in a big classroom. But players-wise, they're allowed voluntary workouts. That means, again, it's not football. That means, they got to schedule it with the strength coach to come over to the stadium, and we're going to start outside in the stadium for the first couple weeks. And those are just for the kids that are living in Youngstown, or that I think we got 42 kids that are still here or staying here, that those 42 kids got to sign up, and, we got to bring them in groups of 7 or 8 just because we got maybe 2 strength coaches working that make 10. And so we got to be creative there, but that's voluntary workouts that'll go through the month of June. And then we're still waiting to see what July brings and when we will have full football access to them. But we're hoping by mid-July, end of the July, that, we can start coaching football.
In a normal atmosphere or a normal calendar year, the coach would allow the players that, or the would-be players that were not given a scholarship, not given an opportunity to walk on, to have that opportunity to try out for the football team. Is there a scenario in which you're going to invite some of the kids that are attending Youngstown State University who had football backgrounds in high school to possibly try out for the 2020 version of the YSU Penguins, or are you waiting on that?
Now, we have some preferred walk-ons, which, we evaluated, through tape, and we kind of had a list and we kind of ranked them, by position. I think right now our roster's probably at 123, 126. And the difficult thing is, I've yet to evaluate even the walk-ons that are in our program. We got 85 scholarship players. And all of a sudden you got 20 of your own walk-ons that, I saw 4 winter workouts. Now there's some kids that, either we were recruiting, whether I was at Cincinnati or, someone was at another school, that are coming in as walk-ons, based on their senior year film and saying, what, we believe this young man can help us this year, or help us on special teams, or at least compete. So once we get a firm set on what our roster is, yes, I think then you take the next step is, okay, maybe someone wasn't on that board, but they're at Youngstown State and they want to be part of the program. But what's concerning is locker room. How many lockers do you have? Okay, do they get a locker? Are they in the locker room? So it's a lot of logistics and working through that, and especially going through this COVID where, they're going to get temperatures read. We might have meetings where we got to have less kids. We might have to have split practices to begin. So we're looking at all those things. So will opportunities be there? I always say this for a walk-on. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. You first got to be at a school that you want to get your college degree at. And if football's that important to you, that there will be opportunities for you.
Coach, you have a great strength and conditioning kind of program there, and you got some great trainers and strength coaches there. Take time to shine a light on them and how their job has drastically kind of changed since they got to get these kids ready for summer and ready for a season with not as much time as they would normally have.
Well, it kind of reminds you of what we did in the older days. Back in the day, back in 1991, some of those kids weren't on campus until camp. So you kind of had to trust. I remember doing, running conditioning drills where if you're a wide receiver, you're working the tree while you're home in, whether it's in Cincinnati or if it's in Louisville, Kentucky. And then when camp started, you got those kids in, and you always did a conditioning test to see who worked during the summer. So we're in a similar situation now that, you're trusting kids to be safe, to be healthy, to be doing it right, but to maintain nutrition, maintain their fitness. Because if you come in July and you haven't done anything, you're probably not going to be high on the depth chart.
YSU head football coach Doug Phillips joining us on the YSN hotline. Coach Phillips, I know that everyone has been in constant communication league-wide, YSU and the Missouri Valley Football Conference. As far as the league games are concerned, with all of the social distancing and the fact that this is a very difficult league travel-wise, are there any potential problems for Youngstown State going through their Missouri Valley Football Conference road schedule?
Right now that'll be questions for the presidents and the athletic directors. But right now we're going as if we're getting ready for September 5th against Akron. The one thing I had to do just for my own sanity was stop worrying about when and start worrying about when we do and having a plan when we do. Because if I sat there every day and wondered, when are we coming back? What's the season going to look like? I would go crazy. So my focus has been, all right, you bring us back on July 23rd, this is what we're doing. You bring us back on August 1st, this is what we're doing. If we can only play league games, this is what we'll do. So I tried to keep those thoughts out of my mind because there's enough people that are working on that I stay focused on how I can provide our kids the best plan for 2020.
Well, and every scenario needs to be played. Otherwise, you could have a state of chaos on your campus.
You can have chaos, and not only that, you want to put yourself in the. I've had 4 different cities, and I'm just ready for.
For everyone's sanity, let's talk about a little football and talk about what you're excited about when you look at your roster and what kind of things you're expecting from the team this year.
Well, I think like anything, you got to first, to me, I talked about our kids that what can you provide to our program that doesn't take talent? Because to me, X's and O's, that's one thing. You got to be able to execute. You got to be able to line up. You got to be able to play with fundamentals. But the things that I think win football games, especially in the third and fourth quarter, is that team, that locker room. So how do we build in a short period of time the unselfishness, the positive leadership? How do you handle success? How do you handle adversity? Things that doesn't take skill, but you got to build within your program. And the one thing I tried to do was when I evaluated film last year, okay, against Illinois State, they were great. Started off strong, finished the game strong. But there's games where maybe you had a lead, and all of a sudden that lead in the third and fourth quarter, those are the things where when adversity strikes, what are you going to do? And we've been stressing over them through this pandemic. You got to thrive through those situations. So there's a lot of non-football things that we got to get done quickly, and those are the things I'm reinforcing daily with our kids. That unselfishness, trying to play as a team, the leadership, all those things. So that's the exciting part, for us. And I think we stress it with our kids that I want kids that are going to play with great effort, great attitude. I want to see kids that compete each and every play. And then the final thing is, take pride in your unit, whether it's the quarterbacks to the running backs, and go out every day and practice and compete and try to be the very best group you can be. And then on Saturdays, bring them together as a team. So in a nutshell, that's what we're trying to get done.
I know for you as a coach, and you're someone that is very much into the positive aspects of life, which is obviously the only way that anyone should be looking at life. You have to look at it glass half full. I imagine for you it was really easy watching the game film and then determining, okay, when the going was tough, how many of my kids or potential kids on my team had their heads down? And if they did, I'm sure you're taking notes saying, all right, we're going to have to work on this, because you never want to have your kid have their head down. I got to imagine that was a big part of film watching for you.
Oh, it was. And, we even filmed our winter conditioning drills, and we had cameras on them when they didn't know they had cameras on them, and see how they handled success. I had a young man, and, you got to pull that out in practice. You got to pull that out when you see it. I had a young man win a tug-of-war, but after the tug-of-war, he laid on the ground for 7 seconds. Are you going to do that after a defensive end sacks you? Then when I saw you walking back to the line, your head's down, your shoulders are slumped. Then when you get back to the line, you're leaning over, hands on your knees. I said, if I'm a defensive team, I'm licking my chops for that next play. I mean, those are the things. I mean, X's and trust me, X's and O's are very important. But those characteristics, those qualities that you got to build, I think is the difference between average teams and winning teams and championship teams. And that takes time to build, but, we're going to try to expedite that as quickly as we can.
It's a very tough Missouri Valley Conference. How excited are you to kind of embrace that challenge and take it 1 week at a time and try to get through that and compete in that conference?
I'm very excited for the Missouri Valley Conference, and what I want to try to do is, try to learn in this off season, who they are, who the coaches are, what type of style. And if you're an FCS, you want to be in that conference because they're the very best. And so I am fired up, to be able to play with the very best and learn from it and study it and try to, go in there with the best prepared team we can.
Coach, I hope that the fans are going to be allowed to go into Stambaugh, because when the fans are into it, Stambaugh can be a really, really tough place to play for the opposition.
Yeah, I think fans, they got to feel part of the program, and that's our job to build and make them feel we're part of the Valley, we're part of the city, and we got to put a great product on the field. It's winning is very important, but more than winning is feeling a connection with your community, and that's something we're going to have to do over the next, 2 to 5 years is build that connection with the community that they want to come support you. But you do got to win football games. All fans want to see winners.
Coach, always a pleasure. Look forward to the team practicing as soon as possible, and I know you're going to be looking forward to seeing what you have amongst your players when you finally get this team on the field.
Well, I want you to know I did this interview as the moving trucks unloading and coming and asking me questions to go where to go and all that. So know that I was doing this during a move.
I like the fact that you're a multitasker, Coach. You're already a success here.
Well, I appreciate it, and I just want you to know that's what I have a multiple tasks going on right now, but it was great talking to you guys, and anytime you give me a call.
I appreciate it, Coach. Yeah, there you go.